Okay, so thank you all for joining us today. We're here to launch the online launch anyway of Everyone's a Teacher, which is a new book that is now printed. Hurrah! I've actually got printed copies in my hand, which is super exciting. Yay for us. So yeah, that was happening this week. It should be hitting all of the online stores. So Amazon.com all over the world, all the different international stores, Booktopia, and all of the places that it will be popping up. That's just in its finalization this week. So if you've ordered a book from my website or from any of those places, it should be getting shipped this week, which is super exciting. Yay for us. Yeah, so let's just get stuck right into it. Let me progress my presentation. So just firstly, of course, the acknowledgement to country. So I acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people, the traditional and ongoing custodians of the lands that I work on, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So thank you all for coming. We are here to launch this book. This little presentation is only about 10-15 minutes. It just talks to you about the why and the story behind the book, and then where we're going from here. There's a little trivia quiz at the end, which you're all more than welcome to participate in. It's all online and you score points for answering correctly, but also as quickly as possible. So the top 3 people who win that competition will be getting a free book posted to them, and that'll be in the mail this afternoon. Hopefully that's only about 15-20 minutes away, and this part of the presentation will not be too long. It's really just to catch you up with what we're doing and why. Yeah, thanks all again for being here, and I look forward to this going quickly. Now, in true Maria fashion, I could never do a death by PowerPoint to you and just lecture at you for 25 minutes, because that would be completely against my entire principle of best practice teaching and learning. So instead, I'm going to give you a job, because of course that's what I do. Have you heard of Pub Choir? If you could just respond in the chat, because I'll be monitoring that. Great. Oh, Mariana, you went in Singapore last month. It's so much fun, isn't it? I've seen so many recordings, but I haven't quite gotten to one. If you haven't heard of Pub Choir, it's this woman called Astrid Jorgensen. She's an Australian, and you'll listen to a little bit about what she does and why she does it. I was watching Australian Story the other night, which is an Australian TV show that focuses on Australians who are doing extraordinary things. And this woman came on, and I was in tears by the end of it, and I couldn't quite figure out why. But I watched the promo again and again, and I thought, wow, like there are so many parallels about what she's doing for singing and what I want to do for teaching. So instead of me telling you what my mission is, I want you to figure it out by having a little listen to this little video that's coming on now. Okay. Oh, it always tears me up a little bit. So can you see the connection between what Astrid and I are doing, her for singing, me for teaching? If you can just put it into the chat and then I can read out. So yes, anyone can be a teacher. Good on you, Anna. That's it. It's demystifying the whole process. It's not that hard. Everyone's had a hard knock when they've done a presentation that's fallen flat, or people have stared at them or been confused. It happens to everybody, but it doesn't matter. Like she says, we're all a teacher. We've all got this unique voice inside of us. We all teach and learn differently, but that power that you can bring from multiple people enjoying that together. And that's what I want to bring to the classroom. It doesn't have to be this terribly boring, confusing, laboursome place to be. It can be fun and communicative, and there can be joy. It can be an inspirational place to be. So yeah, what Astra's doing for singing, taking it to the masses and getting everyone to be really comfortable and confident that they know what they can do. That's what this book does. It gives you the strategies, the tips, the tricks, all the bits and pieces to turn you into a better version, hopefully, of the wonderful teacher that you already are. So that's the parallel. And yeah, it was just wonderful for me to watch that. Oh my God, someone else is doing something similar to me. A teacher toolkit. Yeah, that's exactly right, Anna. And I'll point out later on as well, there's also an engagement toolkit that comes for this. So this is the 12-step philosophy with all the tips and tricks and strategies on how to create a quality learning experience, or an extraordinary learning experience. There's also a toolkit in this that is just purely games and activities. So just things that you can take into your classroom and switch it up, get people out of their chairs and get you away from the lecture mode. It's actually called A Facilitator's Guide to Breaking the Lecture Habit. So that's all part of this book and comes connected with the book. When you do get a copy of the book, there is a QR code inside. It's right throughout the book. It's quoted everywhere. And that's where you can get all of the extra resources, and I'll show you all of that later on. Okay, I urge you to have a look at That Australian Story if you haven't. It's a wonderful show. She's a very inspiring person. So this is my mission, to create a new standard, and my invitation is to you. I should never read and ask people to read what's on the screen and talk over them. Death by PowerPoint is not necessary. Thanks, Anna. It really isn't. There's just better ways. And the book and this whole sort of philosophy is to help people break out of that lecturing habit. So join me in creating a new standard. I'm looking forward to having on board. So where did it all start? I took a posting out in the middle of the Pacific that nearly killed me. Literally, I ended up with multiple organ failure, came back and thought life has to be a bit different. Things need to change. And we've got Therese here in the audience who's currently in Kiribati. Yay! Absolutely love that country. It has affected me profoundly, apart from the fact that it nearly killed me. No, the people there are wonderful. So when I came back from this posting, I was quite ill and I decided that I never wanted to work myself into the ground for a corporate again. So I decided to go out on my own. And part of that was creating a business model. My concept was to create a group of consultants that do similar things to what I do and market ourselves online through some sort of database. The business model was so good that Cambridge University came out with an identical model a year after I started. So that entire year of business development was shelved and I needed to do something else. While I was learning about business, I'd enrolled in a lot of business training. I met a wonderful group of subject matter experts who were like, all of this training is terrible. Aren't you a teacher? Can't you make it better for us? And I was like, maybe that's what I can do. And that's what I started doing. So from that point onwards, I started working with subject matter experts, much like the people that were teaching me about business. What I found with their presentations, they're super cluey people with lots of information, super passionate about what they do. However, the learning experience felt like this, which I'm sure you've all been in a situation where it's, whoa, just so much information coming at you from all different directions. And, oh, how am I supposed to remember this? How does this apply? You know, those lectures that you'll sit in or you have to listen to an hour of a tutorial, but there's no visuals, there's no application. It's just wah, wah, wah. So you tell me, how does the learner feel when this is the learning experience? Any ideas? Type them in the chat. Because otherwise I'm just lecturing at you, aren't I? How does it feel when you're just being fire-hosed with information? Yeah, blasted, massively overwhelmed. Yes. Does anyone feel a bit like these emojis, perhaps? What are we doing here? Why are we here? Or falling asleep or bored or frustrated or confused. There's a lot of different things. So yeah, you switch off completely. Thanks, Alana. You do, because it's just too much. There's no interaction. There's no making you think. So that is essentially what I was helping people change. So going from death by PowerPoint and fire hosing to more interactive, collaborative, communicative, well-structured learning experiences. So who does the book help? Anyone with a body of knowledge, really. And when we're thinking about what teaching is, because people are like, oh, I'm not a teacher. Do you identify as a teacher? Anna, I know you've got to go, thank you. So who identifies as a teacher? Just like hands up or thumbs up or in the trees, you're definitely a teacher. Yeah, we've got a few other thumbs up. Sorrel, I know you're a teacher in an actual school as well. What's certain in life? What is certain in life? You tell me. Come on, someone knows what it is. You can unmute if you like. Nothing. That's change. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Certain in life? I don't know. I'm pretty sure birth and death are certain. Death and taxes. Yeah, there you go, Gail. Yeah, taxes. And I'd like to change that thinking to it, including teaching. We never stop learning. Exactly, Therese. Teaching is certain in life. It's part of what life is all about. It doesn't matter whether you're a parent trying to help their kids learn something new, like tie shoelaces, or a friend with a new recipe. Perhaps it's a colleague in a boardroom situation where there's an annual report to be delivered. Perhaps it's a child actually teaching their grandparents how to use their phone. Everyone's a teacher. Teaching is transferring knowledge and skills. And in the formal sense, of course, it's facilitators and teachers and guides and mentors and coaches and all of those kind of formal labels. But it really does apply to everyone all the time. And that's you, including you. So like Astrid wants everyone to feel confident and comfortable with, this is what my mission is. You as a teacher, everyone is a teacher, and feeling confident and comfortable to get that information across and know that it worked and that the person's got it and is out there using it. That's what my mission is. So if you think about who your teachers were, there are teachers that will have stuck in your mind for a reason. Normally it's because they were really good or really not so good. And at those two polar extremes, those teachers will make you feel a certain way. So just have a bit of a think. How did the good teachers make you feel? How do the bad teachers make you feel? So if you want to type in the chat for me how they made you feel. What did your good teachers do? How did you come out at the end of those classrooms? And it doesn't necessarily have to be about school. It could be family members. Okay, so accepted, curious, challenged. Yeah, like that is a good learning experience when you're stretching your brain. Empowered. Therese, they saw me. Yeah, they really got you. They really connected with you as a person and not just a bum on a seat. Inspired. And Peter, versus demotivated. Yeah, so when you flip all of those, the bad teachers made you feel bored, confused, asleep, whatever. But also things like demotivated. I don't even want to come to your class. If I've had a terrible experience, why would I want to repeat that? Afraid, unvalued, stupid. Yeah, thank you. All of those things. And this is why this mission of mine, it's why I feel it's so important. Every teacher creates a space. You've got the ability to create spaces that are all of those things. Do you want your students to feel, in your words, afraid, unvalued, stupid, demotivated? Or do you want them to feel empowered and accepted and curious? So doing that is not rocket science. And that's what this book is about. It's about helping you arrive at that place. Every person, if you think about it, has the ability to create a safe learning environment, a safe, motivating, inspiring learning environment. It doesn't matter whether your parents, friends, leaders, colleagues, facilitators, call it what you will, you've all got that ability. The reason it's important now, my recommendation is not to put too much text on slide, but follow this with me because one thing leads to another. To learn is our birthright. It's a bold statement, but it's true. To teach is to be human. You can't escape it. It's part of our biology. It's hardwired into our evolution. So to teach is to lead, to parent, to coach, to demonstrate, to work. You name it, teaching is in who we are as human beings. Therefore, we have a responsibility and a choice. And that invites the question, what legacy do you want to leave behind? It's a bold question, isn't it? We've all got the ability to do that. Now, the person who taught me about safe, curious, accepting learning environments is this woman. And this is my gran. This is my dad's mum. This woman created a safe place in the middle of Capel, the town where we grew up. Her home was a safe haven. And my memories from childhood were watching people go into her house in one way and come out in a completely different way. They'd come with their battles or their problems or their stresses or their whatever, and they'd come out looking at them differently, thinking about them differently. What can we learn about this? How are we going to change that? That's my memories. And for her, this is the woman who taught me when you've got a problem, it's not necessarily something to be punished for or to feel negative about. It's okay, what are we going to do differently? How are we going to change that? So her legacy still lives strong throughout our entire family. And I hope that this legacy comes strong through this book and in your classrooms. So yeah, that's where I learned it. And yeah, it's a very touching part of the entire philosophy. She's in the acknowledgements for that reason. Auntie Pam, who's also here today, is also in the acknowledgements because she spurred me to write this book. So it really is. It's been a family job for sure. Okay, so a few questions here again, because I'm not going to lecture at you. What do you think the numbers and letters on screen mean at the moment? And if you're just listening to an audio back of this, the numbers are 30 and 12. And the blank spots are CP for SMEs, OC for small businesses, WL for corporates, and W for lecturers. So just have a quick think about what those letters and numbers mean and have a guess. Put it in the chat. I'm just going to go silent for 10, 15 seconds because I'm about to lose my voice. And the question it's asking is, how long has this book taken to come together? Oh, Peter, 30 years of experience. Yes, well done. In 30 years of teaching and learning internationally. So it started when I was 16 and I got a scholarship to an Italian high school for 3 months. So for the Christmas, I went for 3 months and lived with an Italian family and went to high school. The family was the mafia. I've never looked back. No, they really were the mafia. True story. Anyway, that started my love of travel and adventure. And ever since then, I've been traveling and teaching internationally. So I've had 18 overseas postings. I've traveled through 47 countries. And I think that trip started it all. So this philosophy is what I've learned from 30 years being on the road as a teacher and a learner in all of these different contexts and countries, primary, secondary, vocational environments, all across the board. There's more about my bio on my website if you want more details, but that suffice to say, I've been learning about teaching and learning for a really long time in all the different seats. And that's what all of these different offerings are. So 12 years, because it started off as a coaching program for SMEs. So remember when my colleagues were saying to me, oh, this business training is terrible, can't you help us? I created a coaching program for those individuals. And Gail, I think that was when we started working together, like 12 years ago. So this was a one-on-one coaching program. I built the lessons as my clients needed them and then just kept building on them. And then I realized that I was saying the same thing again and again, and people wanted a lower cost version rather than having to do everything with me face to face. So that's when I created the online course for small businesses so that it could get out to more people at a lower cost and still do the practical with me, but do the learning online. And then I worked for a large government organisation and they were like, have you got some training for instructional designers? Because the people who create our online courses in this department come from IT and they come from HR, but they're not really teachers and they don't really know how to create good learning. They're just cutting and pasting text from a manual into an online course and asking people to read it. And I'm like, I have a course for that. So that's when my online course became white labeled and put into various organizations as the training for their own learning and development teams. It's also been a workshop for lecturers. And in this case, it's been a workshop for quite a few different cohorts. And I'll talk about them on the next slide. But the point here is that this book was not something that I came up with in the last 12 months. It's actually been written and rewritten for the last 12 years. And finally, it's a book. Yay for me. The question here as well is, can one size fit all? And essentially, no. You can have one set of intellectual property and you can create a lot of different products from it. And that's exactly what all of those products are, all the different versions that you can create from the same set of information. So how can it be tailored? Like this book, it's a philosophy. There's 12 stages, there's 12 chapters, but each of them can be individual workshops or individual coaching programs, or they can run together or whatever. So I've done this as a 3-hour workshop for TAFE lecturers with an intercultural twist. So looking at how teachers can be better teachers, but how if you've got a Chinese student and an Iraqi student and an American student all in the same classroom, they're expecting different things. So my philosophy for teaching, is it the same in all of those countries? And how do you get an understanding with your learners and create that safe environment for everyone when you've got different expectations? It was also a workshop for Wesfarmers. So it's a major corporate in Australia. They are the parent company of Bunnings and Officeworks and all of those subsidiaries. We created like a 5-day package for them because they had some really important training at the executive level that was just not hitting the mark. So I worked with their facilitators to upskill them and also upskill the presentation. So it was way more punchy. Instead of it being a 60-minute lecture, it was a 60-minute interactive communicative session where the learners were actually teaching each other rather than one person standing up and lecturing. So it's been a keynote at a big conference. I think it was 300 people out at the casino in Perth for DFES, the Department of Fire and Emergency Services in Western Australia. We turned it into a 3-hour workshop for community engagement officers. So if you want to engage the community, how can you use teaching skills to be better at doing that? So as you can see, it's super versatile. It can be used for accountants or for teachers or for anyone in between, really. There's lots of other different companies and whatever I've worked on, but again, they're all on my website. If you want a few more examples, it's all in there. And what we're doing a lot of is inductions. So thinking about the way that you teach is often the way that you lead. And in an organisation, if you come in for an induction, that's the first chance you've got to connect with your new employees. And if the inductions are very much lecture, what does that say about the leadership in your organisation and how your organisation functions as a teaching model? So that's who it can benefit, how it can benefit. When you buy the book, no obligation, of course, there is a resources page. So there's far too many things to put in the book. So I've put them on the website. There's links out to other training and things that I recommend to have a look at, lots more visuals and things as well. And there's also an engagement toolkit. So this is what I was talking about before, right at the start. It's called the Facilitator's Guide to Breaking the Lecture Habit. And this is purely the games and activities, all the fun stuff. So the way that you can get people out of their chairs and interacting more in a classroom. So this is a free download. It's on the website. You don't have to buy the book to get it. If you go to the resources page, you'll find it. I'll send out links afterwards if you've signed up to this webinar so you can get access to all of that. That book is the basis of all the volunteer teacher training that I do. And if you didn't know already, all of the profits from this book go to those trips. So I pay the airfares and the accommodation and whatever, And then any money that we raise from the book goes towards hiring the community hall. And we pack it full of teachers who otherwise wouldn't have access to teacher training. And we put on activities and games using this resource. And then we leave it with them so they've got that resource and they can teach other teachers in their school as well. Oh, we're nearly finished. So what will you take away? What I hope you take away is something that I call a Kawano moment. And I would love to read you from the book a story. His name is Kawano. He was one of my lecturers in Kiribati, Therese. And this story is about him. And what I hope you have after reading the book, or anyone who reads the book, is a Kawano moment. So I'd just like to read a short excerpt. Why make the learner central to the learning process? Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. That's a modern variation of an ancient Chinese adage. So picture this. I'm in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on a small coral atoll called Tarawa, the most populated atoll of the island nation of Kiribati. With a population of just over 120,000 in 2010, Kiribati hadn't had significant teacher training since the British occupation ended in the late 70s. The Australian Aid and Development project I was involved in was there to change that by helping to upgrade the skills of the lecturers at the local teacher training college. One of my tasks was to observe classroom practice, give feedback, and recommend ideas for improvement in terms of technique and methodology. Most of the techniques being used were those taught in the 70s, chalk and talk style lecturing, requiring learners to regurgitate theory to pass exams. As can be expected from that style of learning, the teacher trainees mostly appeared uninterested and sleepy, if they hadn't already collapsed from the exhaustion of copying copious amounts of notes from the blackboard in the stifling tropical humidity. You know what I'm talking about when it comes to stifling tropical humidity. So tell me and I forget. During the lecturer training sessions, we did a lot of explaining. We observed teaching practice and gave lots of feedback about how to include student-centered learning activities and create opportunities for discussion. The feedback, however, mostly either fell on deaf ears or was incorporated once or twice before old habits returned. Teach me and I remember. Deciding that demonstration might be key, I initiated some supplementary classes in which these student-centered games and activities were first demonstrated before being discussed, deconstructed, and reconstructed for different learning levels and subject areas. When the teachers could see how new simple ideas could be applied to their own classrooms, pennies started to drop and lesson plans started to improve. As is always the case, some learners take longer than others, but I had one in particular who didn't seem to want to grasp the concept of communicative activities and was definitely not including them in his lesson plans. I discussed this with him many times. However, he was determined that his methods were more efficient and that his students would not respond well to the activities that I was suggesting. Involve me and I learn. So I called his bluff. I asked him to create one lesson plan with me based on the communicative approach using the lesson structure, games, and activities we'd been demonstrating and suggesting. After delivering one lesson like that, if he still didn't believe it was the better way, he could go back to doing whatever he liked. No problem. He agreed, reluctantly. To be honest, I think he only agreed because he wanted to prove to me that I couldn't possibly know what his students really wanted and that these types of techniques would never work in his classroom. Fair enough. What do you know? So his next lesson was absolutely hilarious. Now, his lessons were usually very dry, quite monotone, lecture style, chalk and talk, literally. In keeping with the Maria style communicative approach he'd been shown, he put on this incredibly high, energetic, high-pitched voice, which was very clearly over-enthusiastic and very clearly mocking me. Now, mocking is part of the cultural fabric of Kiribati and was warmly welcomed. So I don't think I've ever had so much fun observing someone teach. The students were a bit confused at first, but then threw themselves into it. He played games with them, set up competitive activities, and it was game on. The students were jostling each other to win, shaking with laughter, yelling out answers, and thoroughly enjoying themselves. Oh, it was so fun to watch. After the lesson, he came back to the staff room with his shoulders sagging, shaking his head in disbelief. I smiled and said slowly, "So, Kawano, how do you think that went?" He looked at me with a gleam in his eye and said, "Maria, you are right. That was fun. I've just realised how boring my teaching has been for the last 20 years. I must change now. It's good. I like it." So that's my hope for you, that you can have a Kawana moment. And he actually went on to being one of the best lecturers in the college and was deputy principal by the time the last I heard. I think he's now retired, but what a wonderful transformation for someone who's been doing what he's been doing for that many years and then had a light bulb moment that, yeah, indeed, we can have more fun than what we've been having. So that's what I'd like anyone who reads this book to take away. I'd love them to have a Kawana moment and go, wow, there's something I can do differently to make this more fun for me, for them, for everyone involved. So hopefully you'll take away this new philosophy that death by PowerPoint is no more necessary and doesn't have to be the scapegoat. There are 4 stages in this book, and I'm not going to talk about them because there's more about it on the website and in the book, of course, as well. But in a nutshell, it's about creating a product that really fits the needs of your learner, their learning styles, the type of materials that they need, all of those things, really connecting in, like Therese was saying before. When you're connected in with the teacher, the learner knows that you care and helps create a really positive environment. The second stage is curriculum. So this is down here where you really structure a learning experience so that you can create a suite of products from it, but also so that you know there's no gaps in repetition, which is necessary if you're training at a competency framework. Then you've got the resources. So manipulating your learning resources so that they help you be more communicative rather than just helping you end up death by PowerPoint and lecturing them. And then the 4th stage is all about review. So that's about continuously improving. And as any good teacher knows, there's always an opportunity to get better every time you deliver something. So that's what you'll take away. My book team, just to quickly introduce them all. Stacey is a business strategist I worked with a couple of years ago. She was like, you need to write the book. I was like, yeah, how do I do that? She put me on to Andrew, who does this for a living and has helped the whole way and has just been a wonderful support. He's put me on to the publishers who have done all of the production of this book and everything you're going to see online, like in all the different places. And Charlotte was one of his team who was the editor, and she was an absolute joy to work with. Also part of the rebrand, because this has all happened at the same time. I've got a wonderful photographer here in Perth, Kelly. Alicia came up with a beautiful new brand, and then Alana and Janine made it come to life. So all of the documents, the website, everything that you see that is in this new brand is the genius of Alana and Janine as well. Ben was the videographer. So yeah, big shout out to all of these people. I know Alana was here. I'm not sure whether she still is, but enormous gratitude and shout out to her. She's an absolute wonderful person to work with, and she's not just a web developer. She really is like an online business manager. She does everything, keeps everything looking good and functioning for me, but she's also a very dear friend. So thank you, Alana. I am surrounded by fabulous humans, and I'm incredibly grateful to get to the end of a process like this and to be able to celebrate that team. They are fabulous. I've got some thank yous there. So I'm just going to leave you with this quote. And if you are listening to the audio version, I'll read it for you. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. It's a quote by Maya Angelou. And that's the idea that I'd like you to walk away with, is that legacy piece. What impact could you have if you were the best teacher you could be? And what legacy would that mean that you were leaving behind? So I hope you can leave behind a legacy like my gran left. And yeah, I look forward to helping you on that journey if the book is something that you feel like reading. So that's that. And now we get to have some fun. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support. And yeah, go out and be a wonderful teacher.